Okay guys, during the next lesson we're going to be covering just basic tooling and how to access the tools that you might have in your workshop environment. So we'll go back to this previous model that we've designed just to show you the pockets and the different things. So on this 2D pocket, we'll just go on the edit, right click, and for those of you who don't know, you right click and say edit, and you'll have the complete set here, all the tools related to this 2D pocket. And then you'll notice on the first thing, you've got your tool set up, and you can hit select, and it'll open this select tool window. Now I've got my preset tools that form part of my day-to-day activities here. You might not have that, so you might have to sort of access some of the sample tools that they've got here. Usually what I do is I go onto, there should be, I just want to see quickly, just go onto the filters and say milling, and then we're going to say, we're going to go for a standard flat end mill. Now you'll see we've got the sample tools in inches, and then we should have a metric version just below. Here's the metric version. And we've got all these different flat end bits. So let's just, for the purpose of this exercise, do, let's say, a 5mm flat end bit, which you'll notice here, we can just select this one. And we'll select a 5mm bit. That is just setting a standard bit that you've got in stock. Now, you could also take this 5mm bit and edit, right-click and edit the specific tool. So we can call it anything we want, basically. The cutter itself is in millimeters. So you can then, in the tool edit section, you could change the entire look of this. The number of flutes, you can turn it into 2 flutes, for argument's sake, and you can the diameter can be, let's say, a 6mm. The shaft diameter can be 6mm. The overall length, you can make it 100mm if that is what you do. And below the shoulder length, we can say, just for, these are just random effects you'll notice that on the side here, it changes completely to your specification. So what you'll do is you'll take your router bit that you've got in stock, and you'll just go through all of these things. So on the shoulder length, you can say a 30mm shoulder length, and the flute length could be 28. And you can edit this thing to basically look exactly like you want your well, to match your exact router bit that you can use then. So basically on the shaft, on the holders, you can change all the cutting data, you can change all of these things in the post processor, and then on the number you can select one being your if it's a single spindle machine, then this will just be number 1. If you've got a tool change machine, then you can actually change the number here, and it'll save it as tool number 2 or 3 or 4, whatever, in your machine. So you can edit these as you want. I can just say it's a 6mm. Let's say we call it our long flat end mill, just for argument's sake, because we did make it quite long, and we just say hit the accept button. Then you'll notice it is now part of my document over here. I can select that one and then hit OK, and that would be a 3mm bit. Now, once I've set up all these tools, I can select between them and simply get going with it, So you basically set it up once. You could also save it on the left-hand side. You can save your own library of tool bits. If you use the same bit over and over, and you've got the same supplier, then you can just have a standard bit that you always stock. That's what we do. I've got stock standard 3 mils that I use, and I've got stock standard 6 mils. 8 mils, 12, whatever. We've got the same bits from the same supplier, and we set it up once, and that's what we use daily on StockFit and inside our workshop. So once you've selected that tool, you simply hit OK, and the path will then be generated. Now that's basically it. So just to set up your tool, you can just right click, edit the pocket. The same thing goes for contour cuts. You can edit the tool over here. And as an option. So you can either go edit the path and then select a tool, or you can simply go edit tool, and you can then edit the tool directly just off the bat. But what I do recommend is to just go into the edit, select a tool there, and then select a common tool that you've been using on all of it. It's also quite important that if you want to export the different paths, in this case we've got a 3mm path, and then we've got a 6mm path. Now it's important to make sure that you do not select all these paths together and hit export, because if you export all those paths together, it will export assuming that you've got tool change capability in your workshop. So if it's a single spindle machine, I would recommend exporting path by path by path this way if you want to cut this. In most cases, we wouldn't have a combination of 6mm pockets and 3mm pockets. It doesn't happen often. It's only sometimes you've got a little bit of detail to run on a file. But usually, let's say for the moment, we'll just ignore the little 3mm pocket and we'll just go with the first. It's important to make sure that both these tools are part of the same, you select the same tool and not have different tools selected, because that will cause a little bit of a glitch. Obviously, you want to make sure that you've got tool 1, 6mm, blah, blah, blah. It must be the same router bit on those parts. So you can then simply select those two, right click, and you can hit post process, and you can export that specific path to run that. If you want to select a separate path, you can select individually and hit the post process, and then you can save the files individually. That's what I usually do. Unless it's all same 6mm, then I just run it in sequence. Now, when you do export, these tools will be exported, these paths will be exported in this specific sequence. So keep that in mind. A nice way of doing this specific job would be to obviously move the 3mm up to the top, run the 3mm first, post-process that 3mm as a path, and then post-process the 6mm as a path together, so that you have less file changes and things to do. So just keep in mind that sequence is quite essential, and then the tooling that you select is quite essential, that they all match. Don't mix them up. I think that basically covers tooling for that.